Alrighty. Shall we take a look at the bike that kind of nearly made it across the UK? Right, today we're gonna have a look at the bike that just about made it across the UK, about 10 miles short before breaking it. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know a whole lot about BMXs, so I'm pretty much just gonna have to read it off the spec sheet because it is, yeah, I mean, it's not in my normal terrain of types of bikes that I typically ride, or at least not for a long time. So let's just go over the bike quickly first, and then I'm gonna sort of chat about how the ride went, why I just sort of decided to do it on a BMX and not just on a normal bike or whatnot. So yes, first let's go over the bike. First off, the bike is called a GT Slammer Mikado 20-inch BMX, raspberry and black fade. I actually really love the colour of this bike, and it was sort of one of the deciding factors to buy it, just because it just looked good, and it's a very entry-level bike, as you'll see from the specs. So I'm just going to read what it says about the frame here. It says, the top-tier frame design, the GT Slammer Mikado boasts a durable steel frame design to withstand the rigorous of BMX riding, or, you know, cycling across the UK on a BMX. Can do that too. Whether you're learning the basics of tackling more advanced maneuvers, or the sturdy frame ensures that the bike can handle jumps, bumps, and all the action in between, like riding across the UK, I guess. Now this one's quite funny to me. It says responsive fork, equipped with a 100% high-10 tapered legs fork, providing smooth and reliable suspension performance, absorbing shocks and bumps for a comfortable ride. Now let me tell you one thing about this bike. When you go over bumps, it's not a comfortable ride at all. It's very, on the other end of the scale there, it's very, what's the word? Well, we'll just say I'm not comfortable. So like I say, it is a very entry-level bike. So the wheel size is just 20-inch, and the rims, they're just kind of unbranded. I guess they're like GT in-house sort of stuff. They just say alloy single wall rims with 36 spokes, and the front hub steel loose ball bearings, rear hub alloy semi-sealed with a 14mm cassette. The tyres, again, they're branded GT. They're GT NBS 20 by 2.4. The spokes, they're stainless steel, 14 gauge. So the gearing on this bike is a 25.9. Now, if you've watched all 4 parts of the trip, you'll know right at the end, I broke the chain, which I don't think I've ever broken a single speed chain in my life, because they're pretty thick. So the chain that's on it isn't the original one. It says it's a KMC S1. The chain that's on it now is another KMC chain that I had from an old track bike. Well, I've just chucked that on for now. The cranks, again, GT branded, GT Power Series 3-piece chromoly, 170mm. Bottom bracket, American loose ball bearings. Now, this is slightly different. I did change the pedals. Like I said in the actual ride, I didn't want to put clipless pedals because it is a street BMX after all, and street BMXers definitely do not ride clipless pedals. So the pedals that came with this bike, it says here that they are some GT logo PC platform. I don't think the ones that I got were anything like that. They were just like incredibly cheapy plastic ones, unbranded. And when I took them out, I like tried to twist the axle bit, and it was just like not moving at all. So I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to bother with them. So I don't know, I didn't change it to anything expensive. They are just some DMR Volt, whatever the cheapest ones are. I'll put it on the screen like that. And again, the handlebar, another GT branded one, 2-piece freestyle, 100% high-10 steel, 8.5-inch height, 29-inch width, and 3 degrees up, 11 degrees back. Guess that's the sweep. So the only real thing I changed on this bike, like I said, were the pedals, just to actually have something that worked. And because, you know, I was riding on the road, I needed it to be a road legal bike at least, you know, for legalities. I had to put a front brake on it. I couldn't find the adapter to have that style of brakes that it has on the back. So I just went with these very old Odyssey. It's just a very old style BMX caliper brake. So the brakes are on the wrong way round technically. So the right one is the rear brake and the left one is the back brake. One of the many comments is like, oh, you can put that saddle up a bit, you know. I put it up as high as I could from the minimum insertion thing. Again, it really wouldn't have made much difference because I'm 6'6", and when I'm sat on there, I'm not pedaling anyway. Now, I want to go over the reason why I decided to do an end-to-end on a BMX rather than just a normal bike. One of the reasons is because many years ago, I have to go back to when I was probably like, I think I must have been around 20, 21. I was just out mountain biking, just out enjoying some jumps and just messing around with a friend of mine. And some other guys came, they were mountain biking too, and we were just like, got chatting, and they were going to be doing a charity ride. Now at this time, I was riding a lot of road bike stuff, very long distance, 300-mile days, you know, lots. And I was doing quite a bit of stuff for like raising money for charities and stuff, doing that. So they were going to be doing a charity ride. Now it wasn't a very long ride, it was from Oxford to Cheltenham. I think it was like 40 miles. And they just got talking to me and like, oh, do you want to come and do it? And I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. But in my mind, at that point, asking people to sponsor me to cycle 40 miles when I used to cycle 40 miles to and from work, it didn't really, it just felt a bit, it's not like, nobody's going to sponsor me to do that. So I, at the time, had a BMX. Now I'd been trying to learn how to 180 fakie and, you know, start riding again, but never could manage it, never did figure it out. But yeah, so I said, I'll tell you what, I'll ride it on a BMX, but not only will I ride the 40 miles on a BMX, I'll also ride home as well. So that day I ended up riding from Bicester to Oxford, around 20 miles, and then from Oxford to Cheltenham, 40 odd miles, and then all the way back. And I think in that day I did around 120, 130 miles. So yeah, that day I ended up riding 120 miles, 130, whatever it was, on a Sunday Aaron Ross BMX. Now, the day I did that, it just felt like, it was just so much fun. And funnily enough, I was the first one to arrive in Cheltenham, and then my friend who I rode with as well, he was gonna take a train back, and he had to get to Abingdon, and I had to get to Bicester, and I beat him back as well. So anyway, after that ride, I was like, this was a lot of fun. I know I could do 100 miles. It's not too bad. So I was like, one day I will ride a BMX across the UK, whether it's from Land's End to John O'Groats to John O'Groats to Land's End. But it's one of them rides where it's like, it's got to just be a good timing to do it. I then went traveling. I got rid of the BMX, and I never had a BMX since. And now I'm doing this YouTube stuff. I was like, wow, that'll make a good video. It's a good timing. So ever since Christmas, I've had this BMX ready to go. And the reason I wanted to just do it on a normal street BMX and not an old school BMX where I could probably sit down and make it a bit easier, is just to recreate that kind of feeling. I like the idea of just taking a bike as it is and just doing something on it, whether it's the thing that it's intended to do or not, just taking the bike and riding. So that's why I didn't stick a long seat post, bags all over it, because for me, it just doesn't really, it's just not very, of course I could adapt this bike to be better suited for riding distance, but then I might as well just ride a normal bike, you know? For me, the challenge and the thing that people seem to have missed is in the title, it's standing room only. The whole idea is to go from one end of the country standing up. It was just a lot of fun. Honestly, it was just so much fun, and I was so glad I actually did it and finally got to do it as well, because I always said I was gonna do it, and it's just taken like 12 years or whatever, but it was just like perfect timing to be able to do it. Now, how did the ride actually feel when I rode it? Honestly, not really as bad as I thought. Now, I didn't do any real, obviously I ride quite regularly, so I'm not like new to riding or anything like that, and not new to riding long distance. Now, the only time I rode this bike before actually riding the actual John O'Groats to Land's End was maybe like 3 or 4 miles to go and pick up something from Decathlon, where I thought I might as well just make sure I test it out. So yeah, that was the first time I ever rode it. The second time I ever rode it was riding from Thurso to John O'Groats. Well, I camped just before. And then, so yeah, I'd ridden it 2 times before the actual ride. So obviously the bike just feels a bit awkward. It feels a bit unusual to ride. Whenever you ride a bike, after a couple of days, your body just adapts. So the only issue I really had was a bad wrist. I'm honestly not sure how I did it. I have this feeling like I might have slept on it funny or something, because it didn't really hurt when I was riding. It just hurt when I was like taking my bag off, and you know, and then by the time I got to the end, the swelling had gone down. It was still hurting, but then 2 days after finishing the ride, no pain, all gone. So whether it was tendinitis, whether I just twisted it a bit, I'm not 100% sure, but it's all good now. It was just a lot of fun to ride a bike like this, because it's just a very simple machine. It's one gear, the brakes kind of don't really work that well, but it's just like a very simple, small bike. You can just get on and off, yeah, and it's not the most practical bike to ride across the UK, but it's probably one of the funnest it's probably one of the most fun bikes I've had riding across the UK. Now, I have ridden an end-to-end multiple times now. The first ever time I rode an end-to-end, I didn't go the most direct route. I was cycling the coast of Britain, so I went from Land's End all the way up the west coast of England, Wales, Scotland to get to John O'Groats. And then the next time I did it, it was off-road through Wales and a bit longer. So doing it on this wasn't like, it's not if I'm gonna make it. I knew I could make it. That's not really an issue, especially when you don't have a time limit. If you can just ride all day, camp whenever you feel like it, and just then do it again the next day. Now obviously I was averaging around 90 miles a day, which I was really quite happy with, because you know, it's a pretty decent distance just on a normal bike. But it just shows that you don't really need anything special. Now, I'm not gonna say, if you've never ridden a bike, go and get a BMX and ride across the UK, because it'd probably be a bit uncomfortable for you. But whatever bike you probably have will most probably be able to make it across if you really want to. Now, the question is though, what should I take across the UK next? Because I've got some good ideas, but you should definitely leave it in the comment section down below what you want to see me take across the UK next. We've done gravel biking and stuff. I want to do some unique stuff, but it has to be human powered, because that's what I'm about. Now, is there anything I would change on this bike if I was going to do it again? Honestly, the only thing I would have done is put a top tube bag, my long restrap one, on the top, but purely because it was just a bit of a pain getting my camera out to do the shots of me like riding past, because I had to keep taking my bag off, getting my bag. So I think the hardest thing of that whole trip wasn't the standing up all day, every day, doing 90 miles, or essentially riding a BMX. The hardest part of that ride was any time you had a headwind. And now headwinds are never fun, whether you're on a road bike or, you know, a very optimized bike for even riding into the wind. But I think on a BMX, you're already kind of going a bit slower anyway. So your average speed is probably like 10 mile an hour, maybe less on the hillier days or whatnot. But it's when you're going into the headwind, you're stood up, you're a sail, and it's just very demoralizing. It's the same, for me, it's the same physicality of riding a normal bike. It's just that it's just more demoralizing, because you know you're on a slower bike anyway. You know you're not going to be able to later on average 20 mile an hour like if you're on a road bike. So then miles, you just feel like, oh, it's going to be a long day. Just keep going, keep going. However, that for me, the hardest part was just riding into the headwinds. It wasn't actually standing up the whole way. It wasn't riding essentially a BMX. Well, I mean, it was, because it was standing up on a BMX that made it hard. But yeah, it was generally, it was just getting used to wearing the bag on my back. It took a couple days just to sort of get used to riding with the added weight. Now I did go pretty lightweight with the stuff, just a very lightweight sleeping bag, and a bivvy, and the other stuff I had was just a waterproof jacket and another set of clothes, which was just a pair of shorts and a t-shirt really. And then I just rode in just some casual clothes because I also wanted to just feel like I was just riding a normal, going out for a normal ride on a BMX for a little bit. And exactly what I did. So although the bike didn't unfortunately quite make it, and of course I could have just taken a spare chain or whatnot, but I just couldn't be bothered. So that's the bike, nice and just as it is, very standard, made no modifications, put the seat up as high as I could. And then a few people did say, you should have put stump pegs on it and whatnot. And I was joking with a friend that actually it would be quite funny to put stump pegs on the back and then give people little lifts like you do when you're a teenager. But, and yeah, some people said put it on the front because you can stretch your legs out, and it would have been nice. However, the one time I was sat down going down a hill and I decided to take my legs off of the pedals, I realized I couldn't actually get them back on the pedals because they were just too much under me. So I had to do a kind of foot plant, I don't know what you call them, to get back onto the pedals. So yeah, I don't think it would have really made too much difference having pegs because I wouldn't have been able to get back on the pedals. But yeah, that's the bike. That was the trip, it was fun. So I've got some ideas of some other human-powered transportations to take across the UK next, but definitely leave a comment down below. What should I take across the UK next? And that's the bike. I'll see you in the next one.